Hi, have you noticed that being overly sensitive sucks? It really does. Yesterday was a remarkable day on that front. Well, I, of course, brought it to myself, or I think that I went and I tried to be like positive person and tried to be social and everything that is like that you should be, and it would be actually good for you to be. But I had this epiphany and I went and joined this group that is for people that are starting YouTube channel or has a small YouTube channel and they want to grow and discuss with other people that are in the same position. And it was supposed to be very positive group, or it is very positive group, but well, I went there and I wrote a little note about myself, like hello and who I am and what my channel is about and that sort of thing. I didn't expect anyone to answer to me, but there were quite a few answers. And when I went there, I was a little bit like baffled. I know that they mean well, of course, but it didn't feel that way. So the first comment says that I should niche down, which means that I should like narrow the things that I talk about and just talk about one thing all the time. And I know that that's a very popular advice, but I chose to talk about life, and life is so complicated, and what would it be if I just spoke about one small thing? I don't know. I just started it, but it was that kind of comment. And he commented also that I should try to find a way to stand out from other people. Well, I'm a 50-year-old woman. I'm not very standoutish. Not that way. But I thought that, okay, this was a point taken. And then I went to the next and it was even worse. Of course, I again think that he meant well, of course, but it still felt bad because I am the way it is, the way I am. For example, that if they comment on that my appearance and the fact that I am a little bit slow and a little bit low on energy and not very dynamic, well, those are kind of personal things. They are personal things to me. I'm prone to depression and I have sad seasonal activated depression and so I'm tired quite a lot of time, especially now when it's winter. But I felt very sad when I read those comments and I felt that I'm doing something wrong and I don't belong and I'm inadequate and all those things. If you are overly sensitive, you know what I mean. It feels bad. Even if you try to think that they meant well, it still feels extremely bad. And I had planned to film you a video in the afternoon, but I didn't feel up to it. I couldn't get myself to that kind of a condition that I could have done anything or even think about anything sensible. I, of course, clawed my way through the workday and tried to get something done. And of course, then somebody called and told me that they don't want to pay their bill. And that's another thing. If you are an entrepreneur, you must have gone through the same. So yet again, you think that, okay, what did I actually do for them? And in this case, I actually done them more than what the invoice says, but they were not willing to pay the invoice after all. And that's always, it makes you doubt yourself. It makes you doubt your own like professional capability and you feel bad, and it feels also personal, very personal. There hasn't been many that kind of things, but some. And it's always very Like, even if you stand your ground and say that, okay, yes, you have to pay the bill when you have used my services, it still feels bad. Even if they pay it, it still feels bad. I know that many people just get mad and angry and they are willing to go to courts and everything like that, but not me. Of course, in the end, it would have been gone to that, but we settled it differently this time. But when you have these kind of a negative things on and on in your day, they really wear you out. I thought that I don't have energy to do anything, not even do a video about the things that happened. And then, in the end of the day, I got the news that somebody died. And it wasn't very fun either, of course. But at the same time, I felt even worse because I thought that I have been just like ruminating the day with the bad comments and with the customer who doesn't want to pay his bill, and they are actually mourning somebody's death. So, am I like unreasonable? Am I ungrateful? Have I lost my perspective when I'm moping about that somebody wrote something in somewhere about something that isn't actually like in the middle of my life? It's not in my family. It's just this kind of a experiment or hobby that I'm doing. But our own projects are quite important in the end, if you think about it. If it's something that is just for you, like this is just for me, nobody else in my family watches this or thinks about this or helps me with this or even knows what I'm talking about in here. They just know that I'm doing something. And then there is the, like, you know, that many people say that just don't like hang into those things, just let them go, and they just meant well, or it was just a joke. It was just a joke is a worse thing. When I was small, I remember we had this, in my mother's side, there was this one man, older man, and every time he saw me, he said that I have gained weight. And he did that from when I was 5 to when I was 50. Every time we saw, and we saw weekly. So every time he said that you have gained weight. And I felt really bad about it. I hadn't been overweight in my life, which is of course just a sidetrack. Whatever I look like, there is no reason to say that every time, even if that would have been true. And of course, partly it was true because I was growing up, like my sister said, that it is true. Well, it was not very compassionate of her, but she's the kind of person who wants to like explain things away. But actually, when I think about it now, I have had more trouble with older men all my life. When I was a child, there were these men who said nasty things and teased me when I was small and totally defenseless against them in words and in actions. And when I was a teenager, there were these weirdos that look you like you are a woman even if you know that you are not. And that's why it feels kind of creepy. And after you're 20 and something, then they just attack full on. Because then you are a woman and you can have it. If you are pretty, then you have to be stupid. And if you are pretty, you are somehow flawed and repulsive and something to hate. I don't know why there is so much hatred from older men. Of course, there are, older women too. But towards young women, like I would have in my 20s. It would have been something like 80s and 90s. Even if I would have caused any kind of threat to them. Not where I lived. There wasn't that kind of equality, and chauvinism was still very strong and on its place. Nobody questioned that. But all of this is, I don't know, at one point in my life, I just try to think that I'm oversensitive, and that's why everything that happens like feels so bad to me. And I understand that this kind of oversensitivity comes probably from a trauma, from something that has happened in childhood, or some pattern that has been going forward in childhood, or maybe if you go through a very nasty divorce or very bad relationship, then you might end up being like permanently alert, so that you are overly sensitive to anything that is said to you. Your self-esteem has somehow like suffered permanently, and it's very hard to get it back. And of course, I'm 50. I don't even think that it is coming back. But I am what I am. And I am a little low on energy. I am overly sensitive, and I get easily hurt even if people don't mean it. But it doesn't take away the feeling. It doesn't take away the feeling of hurt. And that's something that is very hard for people to understand, people who aren't overly sensitive, that it doesn't wipe away what they say just by saying that it was a joke. I remember it was my kids that has this kind of period that they said something like half horrible, and then they said that no offense, but. And it took me a while before I understand that, okay, this is a pattern. And then I said to them that saying in the beginning, not offense, but, it doesn't take away what you are going to say afterwards. It's just some kind of a scheme to get to people, and that's not very nice. And they understood it right away. I didn't have to say it twice. So they knew actually that it wasn't good. But being overly sensitive is not easy. And it's tiring. And it's taking away the things that are your own. And that's maybe the worst part. If you have had some kind of idea and start doing something, and then just somebody comes and like puts the lights out. And it's much more work to get back to the same mood, to have the same like enthusiasm and belief that you can actually do something. And that's what I lost. And that's why I didn't make a video yesterday, and that's why I'm now just puzzled. But I was running an errand on town, and so I sat in a subway quite a while thinking about this. And then I thought that, okay, I'm coming inside from the rain. It's raining icy water, so it's very, very cold. And I know that I look like a wet dog, but I thought that if I am thinking about this on my way to town and on my way to back, I'm not the only one. So it's better to sit down and talk to you about and ask you about if you are overly sensitive too, if you have this kind of days that you just feel like somebody ran over you, then to just be silent and say nothing and do nothing and just wait until I am back myself and I can just do things normally. If you are overly sensitive, please comment down below or like this video and show support to other people who are overly sensitive. You know, there are two sides of this, like, oversensitivity. My husband says is when I sometimes say to him that I'm sorry, but I'm overly sensitive about this, he says to me that he loves me partly because I am overly sensitive. Because the other side of the oversensitivity and the hurt is the fact that I will not build a wall around me anymore. And I feel strongly, not the bad feelings, but of course the good feelings too. Love and joy. So there is the other side of the coin of sensitivity, and we should appreciate that. It's a part of our nature, it's part of our character, it's part of who we are, and we should never have to hide who we are, unless we are mass murderers, but that's another thing. But I hope we all have a better day tomorrow and day after that. I hope we see you soon. Goodbye.